Okay, hey everyone. So for the past year, our team has been focused on the performance in our online purchase flow, moving from what we called our Cart-astrophe to something today we can say we're very proud of, and I want to share with you today the process and the problems and solutions we came up with, and hopefully you can take them and implement some of them in your processes. Okay, so to get some motivation to why performance is important, when talking about purchase flows, it's important. Why it's important, years ago, Amazon found that every 100 milliseconds of latency cost them 1% in sales. And since conversion is one of our main KPIs, it is definitely something that we want to prioritize and improve. So how does slow purchase flow affect us at Wix? So the first thing is that it's a barrier for bigger merchants to come onto Wix because bigger merchants are professional and they're looking for professional systems and they perform well. In addition to that, it's a direct cause for churn. Users leave us if they see that we're not as good as our competitors, and they're not willing to be okay with just okay. And the last one is more personal, that whenever we show demos, we would always have something ready to talk about when the user clicks the checkout button and until the checkout actually loads. And we would talk over it so people maybe won't notice, but obviously they always noticed. So, okay, so before we continue, just a little bit about me. My name is Nachshon Schwartz. I'm a tech lead at the e-com platform team. I'm married to Atara, father to Alma, Omer, Yanai, and Negev, for 9 years at Wix, and for the last year, I've been mainly focused on performance. So in order to improve anything, you need to first measure it, and that's exactly what we did. We went and we measured our navigations and our interactions, and the result was not great. You can see here that our checkout load time is 7.7 seconds. Our cart icon took 4.5 seconds to load in the P75, and we had our work cut out. And how did it get this bad? I break it down to 3 different reasons. The first is legacy code. E-com is a very old company, existing for a long time, and code, as time passes, becomes worse, moving between teams and things like that. In addition to that, we've been really neglecting performance for years. It's not that we haven't been working on it, but we treated it as tech debt. And so even when we actually did some tasks, they always lost priority to other tasks, and we rarely managed to move the needle on it. And the last point, which is important to understand about e-commerce, that e-commerce is inherently complex, and in Wix even more because of the amount of types of users we have that come, and I'll explain in a minute. And when you have a complex system, sometimes performance suffers. So the mindset we did was we decided we needed to start taking performance seriously. We needed to set clear goals, actual numbers that we wanted to reach by the end of the year, and we needed skin in the game. We needed to make it a must-not-fail of the group and actually invest time in it. That way that when another feature comes in, we don't suddenly lose focus and move to different tasks. We finish what we started. E-commerce at Wix. We sell a lot of different types of products on our systems. We sell food, we sell services, physical products, digital items, gift cards. And for each of these different types of items, we have a dedicated team in charge of that domain, professional, they know how to sell. And when a user's journey goes through our system, they pretty much go through this flow. They start with some item gallery. It could be a calendar, it could be a menu, it could be a product gallery. They choose an item, they then move to their item page, and they add their item to their cart. And until here, it's very domain specific. You need knowledge of how to sell specific items, so that's in the domain teams. From here on out, the cart checkout and order management is really streamlined, and we can really take it on to one team, our team, the e-com platform team, and we're going to dive into the cart and the checkout and see how we improved them and got our times down. So before we dive into our problems and solutions, just to understand what components we have our 4 main components. We have our cart icon, which shows the number of items, and it appears on every page. In addition to that, we have our side cart, which shows a minimal view of the cart, shows the cart up to the level of the subtotal, which is the sum of the line items inside the cart. Then we have our cart page, which is a more robust solution, allowing to also select shipping and see tax and other things like that. And lastly, we have our checkout, which the user fills in his information, and that way he can check out, place his order. So now we're going to start solving our performance one problem at a time, and this is really how we started working on it. Instead of when we started looking at the start and wanted to solve performance, it was a very big task, and we didn't really know where to start. And really what we did is we started with the small task and slowly built on top of it, and you'll see how every solution we have builds to the next problem and its solution. So the first problem we had is we have our cart icon, and it reloads on every page. So we're really calling our cart backend on every navigation. And our solution is pretty straightforward, not anything out of the box. We just decided we need to start loading our data once and reuse it after navigation. So in our example here, we use the viewer's memory storage. We set our cart items in the memory storage, and then when we get to the next page, instead of loading it from the server, taking time, we could just load it from our memory storage. And this change alone caused a drop of 25% of calls to our server, which is big because cart icon is really the main component of ecom because it's on every one of the pages. And even though this didn't really affect our overall performance, it affected our cart icon, and it was a good start, and we can build on top of that. So our second problem was our side cart. We have our side cart, and it's expected product-wise to open immediately when the user clicks the cart icon. And we don't really know when it will open, so we need the data to already be there, but we don't know when it will open. And building on the previous solution, what we did is we shared the state between the components. We loaded the data once, and on change, we updated the shared state. So you can see here in the code, we first load our cart from the server, then we notify all the listeners. Cart icon and side cart are listening to the cart changes, and when quantity changes, again, we notify all the listeners, and that way everyone is up to date. Okay, so until now, we were talking about when we load the data, and now we started to address what data we need, what data we're loading. Okay, so we start with what data we actually need, and we look at our two components we have so far. The cart icon really just needs the number of line items, and our side cart needs a little bit more. It needs the line items, it needs the subtotal, and it needs the line item discounts. The reason it needs the line item discounts is because on our side cart, we show up to the level of the subtotal, which again is the sum of the items in the cart. And whenever you're looking at a subtotal, you expect the discounts to already be included inside it. And what we were actually loading is a lot more. We were loading global discounts and shipping options and tax calculation in addition to fees and validations, which were all really not needed and unnecessary and expensive. And in a second, I'll get to why they were expensive. So why were we loading all this data? Well, we were using our legacy front-end server, which pretty much gave us what I call the everything cart. So if we take, for example, a call to to get our cart, we went through our front-end server, which went to our cart service, returning our cart, and then went to calculate the totals in a service called Totals Calculator, and returning the totals and returning the cart with pretty much everything you could think imaginable to use for a cart, but not really needed for our flows. So let's dive into Totals Calculator and understand why it's expensive. Totals Calculator is a set of steps. You can see here we calculate discounts, then we calculate membership, shipping, additional fees, tax, and validations. And these steps are sequential. And the reason for that is because every step's input is dependent on the output of the step before it. So, for example, the tax, in order to calculate tax, we need to know how much additional fees there are and how much shipping costs. And in order to calculate shipping, we need to know what the discounts are on the items so we can give an accurate shipping. In addition to that, Totals Calculator is extendable via SPIs, which makes it very good for personalizing it per site. But a site can come and implement a super slow custom shipping rate calculator, and suddenly the whole system is slow. Now, if somebody does implement a slow shipping rate calculator, it's expected that the shipping would be slow. But why is our cart icon taking more time because of this? Why is our side cart, which is not showing shipping rates, getting affected by this? So if we look at the both entities that our two services have, we have our cart entity, which holds our line items and our subtotal, but missing the line items discounts. And Totals has our line item discounts, but comes with a lot more expensive information. And we needed to solve for that. And our solution was only loading what we need, which means we need to model our entities correctly. And this was really the biggest mind shift that we did during this development, where we stopped looking the front end at the existing back end and trying to improve performance. and the back end at the existing front end, and instead sat together and looked if our services were actually usable by our client, and tried understanding what the right modeling is. And really what we found was that our cart, which has a subtotal on it, didn't have the line item discounts in it, and that means our subtotal wasn't a real subtotal. So it's not just for our client, it's for any client. Moving on to our fourth problem, we have our cart page, and as I said before, it's a more robust solution, and it also needs the totals because it shows shipping and tax and a bunch more information. And so our solution for that was, let's continue using our shared model, but defer our heavy computations, our totals calculation in our example, to a later state. So you can see here on the left that, that our cart loads fast and our totals come in later. That allows the user to already start interacting with his cart early. He can then view it, he can add to the quantity, remove, and once our totals are in, he can then check out. And you can see here on the right that we have an example of a cart with more than 3 items, and on mobile, which I don't know if you're aware, but 70%, more than 70% of our users are on mobile. The totals are happening down in the bottom where the user can't even see under the fold, and so he's not even affected by the downside of these changes. So these 2 last changes caused a drop in 90% of calls to our totals calculator, and it's clear why, because we were only calculating the totals when we need it in the cart page, and the rest of the flows didn't really need these calculations. So moving on to our last problem, we have our cart pretty much solved, and we're now looking at the checkout, which is really the main focus that we wanted, the main thing we wanted to focus on when starting with this performance change. And mainly, as I gave in my example, the move from cart to checkout. It takes a very long time, and the reason for this is that our checkout page uses an entirely different model. So anytime moving from the cart to the checkout, we need to call something called create checkout from cart, which calculates totals in order to do so, and takes a very long time. And if we look at our 2 entities, we can see we have our cart and checkout entities, and you can see that cart today is a subset of checkout. And it didn't start this way. At the start, they were a lot different, but slowly, as features were requested in the cart that existed in the checkout, we added more and more functionality. And even today, we have users requesting to collect gift cards in the cart, and you can see how they're continuing to merge. And our solution for this was to merge the cart and checkout services into one new entity for the entire flow, which we call Cart v2. And that way, we can use our shared model the same as the rest of our purchase flow and get all the benefits that we talked about until now. And the immediate benefit for just this change of removing the call for create checkout from cart is that the click on checkout is instantaneous. It opens quickly, unlike in V1 where we then had to calculate and only then we can move to the other page. And the reason is clear because we're really dropping all the time that it took to create the checkout from the cart. As I said, this also allowed us to do the same changes we did in the cart, deferring our totals. And that way, the user can fill in his buyer information while the totals are loading. And since checkout is just a very big form, it's really beneficial because the user doesn't really need to see his totals while he's checking out. He really only wants to see it at the end or in specific points. And really what we do is we only wait in the end for the totals to load before the user can place his order because he needs to see the last number. Okay, so just the last step of changing the totals. This is the measurements of before and after. Again, just the last step because we did a lot of performance changes, and this is already the lowered number that we had, but managed to cut in half some of our transactions inside the cart page. So when you used the set delivery method, it took 1.4 seconds. Now it takes 0.6. It's an amazing change, which we were very proud of. And moving back to our slide in the start, we can see the numbers before, and our numbers after are amazing. You can see that our checkout now loads more than twice as fast. Our cart page loads almost twice as fast. Our cart icon loads almost twice as fast. And the rest of the numbers were also very good. And I think the thing that we were most excited about when we did this is that we managed to increase our conversion rate by more than 1%. And when I say more than 1%, the only thing that we managed to measure when talking about conversion was the last step, not even Cart V2. It was just the step of changing the totals to be deferred. And so we assume it's more than 1%, and 1% might not sound like a lot because it sounds like a small number, but I've been at Wix for 9 years, all of them in e-com, and rarely do we manage to do features that move the needle when it comes to conversion rate, so we're very proud of that number. So just to finish, I want to give you my 3 takeaways from this project that we did. The first one is that you should challenge yourself and set ambitious goals. None of this wouldn't have happened if we didn't actually commit to actual goals and have the support of management. I think we did eight milestones in the change to performance, and without actually committing, we would have lost focus and not been able to finish it. The second point is a little bit cliche, but as I tried showing in this talk, change starts with small steps. And really, when we looked at it in the beginning, we didn't know where to start. And once we started with a small step, the next part got easier and easier as we moved between the steps. And it's a great strategy for doing these kind of big features. And the last point here that I want to make is that it really ties into changes we're doing today at Wix, that in order to fix an issue, you really need to look at the full picture. None of this wouldn't have happened if we didn't come back end and front end together and try solving the problem in the correct place, and not just each one of us inside our silos. And I think now with a change to BX engineers in Wix, hopefully this will happen a lot more, and our product will be better for that reason. Thank you very much, and this is the team that helped me with this feature.